So, alright, we'll get started. So I picked an easy boat to do today. This is the Dreadnought Bellerophon. Basically, it's basically Dreadnought. I don't think there's really much of a difference between the two of them. So, what I didn't really show, so I already have this in here scaled. I cleaned up a bunch of the unneeded bits and pieces of the model. But I'll go ahead and show kind of what I did to get this in here. So you'll open a new tab in Fusion, go to Insert, Insert Mesh, select from my computer, and then you'll have your game model from either World of Warships or is it War Thunder? I think the other one is. Select your mesh file, open, and let it load. Hopefully it doesn't crash the computer. There we go. And we'll set it to the correct orientation. Select OK. From here, what I'll usually do is I will scale it by going to Inspect. I'll select a point, the furthest point on the bow to the furthest point on the stern, roughly. You'll get your measurement, you'll do your math, figure out exactly what scaling ratio you would need to get to the correct length. Once you figure that out, I'm not going to do it here, but once you figure that out, come here to Modify, Scale, select everything, type in whatever that amount is, say it's 4.358, we'll just go with that. That'll scale it to the correct size, and then I will double check to make sure that it is correct before I continue on. So I'll select the furthest point of the stern, furthest point on the bow. Now I get like 46.589. So then once it's scaled, we'll want to center it up with the origin point. That way we can easily sketch all of our rib stations and everything on the center line. And it's
just as an aside, your drop downs are not showing.
My drop downs aren't showing up here.
Yeah, when you hit the modify, we don't see anything.
Okay. That's strange. Anyway, if you go to modify in the drop down, you'll see scale and everything else. So for the movement, grab your move copy, select everything, and then let's move this out of the way so we can. Where is the origin at? Make the origin visible. That'll help. I like to put the origin point on the very tip of the bow, not the furthest point, the actual tip. Then you'll basically just walk it in, play with your measurements until you get it all the way there. So you got the tip on the point there, and then you come over to the front. Same thing over here. It's a little harder to see because it's blue. But once you get that all centered and everything, what you'll get is this. So I got it perfectly on the point, the bow there, center line of the ship, and now we are ready to actually begin the designing process. Another thing I didn't mention, there's a lot of extra details and unneeded superstructure and whatnot that even if you're designing like superstructure for 3D printing, you don't need. So you can come through and clean out a lot of this. What I'll often do is I'll just select, hit Control, or Shift, sorry. That'll select everything between those two selected bodies. And I'll just inspect, make sure it's nothing that I need. Then hit delete and get rid of it all. Once you've done all of that, what I'll also do is I'll select all the leftover bodies, because this is a massive list and it's hard to keep everything organized if this is constantly in your drop down. So I'll select all the bodies, and I'll move them to a group, which I failed to create a group before we did this, so let me start over. So what you'll want to do, come back up to the top, bodies, right click, new group, rename it, we'll name it mesh bodies. And now we'll select all of our mesh bodies by clicking on the top one, coming down to the bottom, holding shift, and then we right click again, hit move to group, and then we select the group that we wish to put these in. Select mesh bodies, OK, and then that will move all of our mesh bodies into this group that we can easily toggle on and off for visibility. And then when we open up our bodies tab, we don't have a million bodies to scroll through to find what we're looking for. That just helps keep things organized. So we'll move over here to our properly scaled centered one. Now to begin this, the STL game model, I'm not really going to use any of that to like convert it into an object or anything like that, or convert it into a solid body. I'm just using it as a 3D set of plans essentially. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set a series of planes along the length of the hull where I want to create rib stations like you would see in a set of plans. So I'll come over here to offset plane, I'll select that, I'll come off of our plane here. I'm going to come out, usually on the bow, I'll start out at about 2 inches. Yeah, let's move this back a little bit. I want to start right about where this line is. That way I can create this bow in one piece. So we'll put our first rib station here. And then we'll just continue on adding these down the length of the hull. You'll want to have rib stations around features of the hull that you got to capture. So like this deck step here, I'm going to put a rib right where it starts. So we'll place a plane there. From there, we'll just continue on. You don't need them super close together. I space them out anywhere from 6 to 8 inches, depending on what the shape of the hull is where I'm placing these. So I'm just trying to capture the general shape of the hull. I'm going to place another one here at about 6.5 inches. Offset another plane. Try and make sure you get one around the widest point of the hull. So let's go about 8 inches here. Place another one. And continue on. We'll go with 5.5 here. Go 5.5 again. Drag another one out. I like to place one right where the end of the keel stops and then proceeds into the stern. Somewhere around that point I like to drop one, because that will be where it will stop lofting and create another loft for the stern. place one there, and then we will put one more, give our stern some shape. That looks good. Alright, so now if I turn off the mesh bodies, you can see we have a series of planes, and then we're going to create basically rib stations off of this body at every one of these planes. So we're going to come over here to the mesh design area, and right here we have create mesh section sketch in the create tab. You'll select that. It's going to ask you for a body that you want to create a mesh section from. So we'll click on this nose piece, and then section plane, select that, and click on the plane that we placed in it. So this first one here, you'll see it's created basically an outline of the outside of this body. So we'll hit OK. That's one done. We'll continue on down through, select the body, get our second station here, hit OK, all the way down through. Which one is that a part of? I think it's this one. And then you can see, if I turn off the body, we've created rib stations in place of the hull. So just continue on down through until we get all of these done. Now we'll do the side profile of the boat. So since this is broken up into multiple bodies, it's kind of a pain, but just select your first body, select your center line plane, OK, and then just continue on down through your bodies. And this will give you your side profile. And this making sense so far? I don't know if I have anybody watching at this point. Okay. So now we'll turn. So now we have a 3D set of plans for our boat. Now from here we can start sketching. So before I start sketching out the rib profiles, I like to do the side profile first. And since I'm designing this for 3D printing, I like to make the nose and stern of the boat flat and thick instead of coming to a point like the actual ship. To accomplish that, I'm going to offset the side profile sketch 0.1 inches from center line, and that'll give me 0.2 inch flat section between the left and right halves. That'll give me a nice thick nose and stern that's not going to break when it's printed. So to accomplish that, I'm going to come over here to my centerline plane, select that, offset it by 0.1 inches, and that's going to now be my my centerline sketch plane. If that doesn't make sense, it'll make sense once we start lofting everything. So we're going to go to Create Sketch. Make sure we select that plane that we offset. We're going to start by defining the bow. So this has a bit of a downward slope to it, we're just going to make it flat. So the actual flat part of the bow is only going to come out to about here, so we're going to just drag this a little bit beyond. And then we're going to define the bottom of the boat. Let's start scrolling here. There we go. Bring this all the way down. That's going to be the keel. We don't have to get exactly where it's going to wind up. We'll change those later. I'm going to draw the bow. Just going to put select fit point spline. So we're going to create a spline, and we're just going to follow the profile of the bow, putting several points to help define this, and then connect it there. Hit OK. Escape to get out of the spline tool, and then we have these green arms here, which allow us to modify the radius and direction of each one of these points, and we can use that to fit this line to the actual profile of the bow. So you see this one is angled and it's kicking the line back this way. So we're going to grab this point, we're going to change that closer to up and down. This one needs to come in a little bit and get our line closer to the profile. I'm going to drag this one down a little bit, change the angle on it, change the angle on this one some. This one we want to be in line with our keel profile. That'll make sure it's tangent. Let's see here. Trying to lessen the radius on this, get it closer to the actual shape. That looks pretty good. We'll go with that. So we got that done. We're going to come over here. We're going to define our lower deck. I'm going to come off the stern. We're going to make this completely flat. You can see there's a bit of a bow to it, but we're not going to match that because it's just not productive for our purposes. So I'm going to scroll in till we get to roughly a similar point to our profile. Come across, and that looks good. That will be our lower deck. Escape. We're going to do another spline for the stern. And let's try that, see if that works. Ooh. That looks pretty good. The stern I'm going to leave, this connecting piece, I'm going to leave till later, because I find whatever I put in there ends up being changed. So I'm just going to leave that open. But we have what we need to continue. So I'm going to hit Finish Sketch up here in the top corner. That's now our side profile. So now we're going to start drawing our rib stations. I'm going to create a sketch. Oops, I must have been selecting a plane. I'm going to create a sketch. We're going to select our first rib station. And we have all these planes that we created. You can turn those off by clicking visibility on your construction. That'll get those out of your way. But we also have a lot of these rib stations. It kind of makes it hard to see what we're looking at here. So if you open up your sketches, we can limit the visibility on all of these. So I'm going to turn off everything from sketch 1 down. And the rest of these are the side profile. I'll leave those on. So we now have created the sketch. We're looking at it straight on. Before we start drawing anything, we're going to want to intersect this sketch with our top and bottom rib, or top and bottom side profile sketch. So we're going to come up here to create. I have mine, we want the intersect tool. I think if you go to create, open the drop down to project/include, you'll see intersect. If you click on the three dot drop down, you can pin it to your toolbar. It'll just be up here for simple and quick application. So you want the intersect tool, and you're just going to click on your top profile and your bottom profile, and this is going to create a purple dot where this sketch plane intersects this other sketch. So our first rib sketch is intersecting the side profile sketch. This makes everything contingent and in line. Alright, so we're going to go back to looking at it from the front. We're going to create a line, and we're going to come out about 5 inches or so. And these are just guidelines. We don't these don't really serve an actual drawing purpose. Basically what these are going to do is give us a series of places to put our spline points that are concurrent through the entire sketch. We'll get to that here in a bit. I'm quick turning on our side profiles to make sure there's no features in the hull that I need to define, like armor belts or anything like that. Because if there were, I would put a line where they are to help me make sure that I define those points. I don't see any. So what I like to do is I like to put a line roughly around the turn of the bilge. About there, so. And then one more kind of in the middle. We'll do this. And then this line for the lower deck, I want to also have a line concurrent with that. That'll help me tie everything together later on. So to do that, I want to make sure that I have a line in line with our stern lower deck. To find out where that's going to be, I'm going to hit P for project, and it's going to project this line onto our sketch. It's going to create a little purple dot right there. That lets me That lets me know that's where my stern lower deck is. So I'm going to create a line, bring that out, and there we go. So these are our guidelines. These will be on every sketch that we do from now on. So now that we have these, we're going to go to spline, grab another spline, and we're going to sketch out this rib. We're going to start there. On this next line, we're going to create a point where they intersect, where the sketch profile and that line intersect. Go down through and just keep adding those on. And then I'm just going to end it right here at the corner. I'm not going to try and match where it actually goes to, because our keel area is going to be at least 0.1 inches from center line, so I'm not going to try and make this perfectly accurate. So now we want to make sure that our line matches the sketch profile. We might have to adjust the green lines to change the direction of our spline in a couple spots. This isn't too bad. This one could probably be, which one is it? This one. This middle one I want to tweak out just a little bit. There we go. Alright, I think that's good. That's our first sketch profile. I finish sketch. Now you can see that it perfectly intersects our keel and intersects with our deck lines. So with that being done, we're going to turn off our first sketch profile, turn on the next one, and these ones I turned on earlier. We'll turn on our planes again. We're going to now sketch out this plane. Must have been selecting a plane earlier. Okay. Select that plane. We'll turn off all the other ones. Get them out of our way. I'm going to go back to intersect. Intersect with top and bottom, or bottom and top. Hit OK. Now these lines that we drew earlier, instead of drawing them every single time, we're going to hit P for project and just select all these lines, and that will project them onto our current sketch. Hit OK. There they are in purple. Go to our side profile. Now, you can see this is where that deck cutout starts on the actual boat. If I turn this back on, you can see where our step deck starts. I chose a point at the very bottom of this, so I get as much of the hull profile as I could. What I'm going to do is I'm going to model this as if the deck step wasn't there, and then I'm going to cut it out later. So I'm going to go to spline point again. I'm going to just choose a random point up here. I'll change it later. But on this line, I'm going to keep going in line with our sketch profile. Till we get to the bottom. Also select the corner. Hit escape to get out of our tool there. And then we're just going to make sure that we match our profile. And then for this point, I just adjust it to approximate exactly close to what the hull would be if that cutout wasn't there. It doesn't have to be perfect. That looks pretty good. I'm going to finish our sketch. And now we're just going to continue down the hull with all these sketches. Why does that keep happening? Create sketch, next plane, turn off all these other planes. I'm going to project our lines, hit P for project. Grab all those lines. We don't need this top one anymore because we are now beyond the point of that upper deck. So we'll just need these four. Go to our side profile, select spline, and then follow the sketch profile. And same point. Escape to get out of spline. We'll adjust this spline to fit a little better. That looks pretty good. Finish sketch. Alright. Moving on. Turn off that sketch. Go to the next one. Turn on our plane. Select sketch, plane. Turn off all the other planes. Project these lines. There gets to be a lot of repetition in this process. Go back to front, spline, approximate, And when we get to the point in the hull where it starts to get flat on the bottom, I'll just pick a point where it's close to flat, and I'll just place a point there instead of trying to come back to center line. This keeps the bottom flatter and more accurate. And then this point I will change the control handle to be tangent with the bottom plane or bottom line. And then we need to adjust this guy here to get a lot closer. Need to increase the radius. That looks good. And then, yeah, I think that's fine. That looks pretty good. Finish sketch. Alright, continuing on. Go to the next. Next plane. Project these lines. Go back to front profile. And continue on following our sketch profiles. I don't know if anybody's got their mics on, but is this making sense? That looks good. Did you say something?
I said totally, dude.
Cool.
I'd actually got 10 or 15 minutes earlier.
Well, I'm recording this, and it's going to go on YouTube, so you haven't missed anything. I'll turn this plane on. There we go. Once we get all of these profiles done, that's when the magic starts happening. So just bear with me here for a bit. I chose this boat so because it's pretty simple hull shape, and it's shouldn't take too long to get it done. But it's still going to take a little bit of time here. There we go. Looks like we got 1 or 2 more to go. A lot of what I'm doing will make more sense once we start getting into creating rails and actually lofting the boat. So if it doesn't make sense, hopefully it makes sense here in a bit. Alright. That looks a little wonky. Try and get this closer to what it's supposed to be. These stern profiles are often a little harder to get in line. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. We'll finish that. One more. Oop. I don't know why that keeps happening. Alright. Project that one, that one. I don't think I'll need it, but I'll project that one too. The stern profile's often tricky. The bottom finish point, a lot of times I will change depending on how the lofting's going, so it's kind of one of those. I'm just going to approximate it for right now. I'm not going to try and match this cut in a stern. We'll add that later. So I'm just going to come down, follow the profile, and come to the bottom of the keel. Come to the center line, sorry. And then a lot of times what I'll do is I will draw a line from here to here, move this point to that line, and then I will loft it and then cut out the actual profile of the stern. But we'll get to that here in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this side profile again, right click, edit sketch, and then that'll open that back up. I want to end this keel profile at this rib. So what I want to do is project this rib onto the sketch, and that'll just allow me to select it and draw a line off of it. The purpose of that is just to trim this tail section off. If I didn't project it and draw a line, it would just delete the whole thing because it doesn't know that rib exists. So I need to create a point that it will trim to, and I can just get rid of that then. So what I'm going to do now is draw that. And that's how we're going to loft the stern. I could, let me try doing it semi-shaped. We'll give that a shot. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We're going to try and match that profile. So that means I need to change that. Alright, we'll finish our side profile sketch. We will open or edit the sketch again. We'll want to intersect this new line, this new keel that we drew. We're going to intersect with it so we know where our rib profile has to end. And I'm just going to redraw this. I'm going to delete it and redraw it. See if we can't make this right. Right. This may work, this may not. We'll find out. Change that to flat. I'm going to decrease the radius on this by a lot. That way we get the actual shape that we need. And then change these to be closer. Close enough, I guess. We'll try it. It may work, it may not. Alright, so the stern's now done. We'll come over to the bow and do basically the same thing. We're going to click on sketch, right click, edit sketch, come to our side profile. I'm going to trim this down. See, if I was to try and trim this without drawing that line, it'll just cut the whole thing away, and I don't want that. So I'm going to project this rib onto the sketch, the line, drop it down, trim away that excess, and then the bow profile I'm just going to drag to the end of that line. And now we're just a little bit off, but I'm not going to really worry about it. It's close enough. So now we have our bow profile that ends at our first rib. We have our stern profile that ends at our last full rib. And then that's pretty much all that we need for that. Oh shoot, I forgot. These points that we created in every rib, we're going to also connect those to the bow. So we're going to go back, edit our side profile. All these lines are all these points that we, I guess they didn't project. All these points, we're going to project them onto the sketch now. And now we're just going to draw a line from those points at a right angle to the bow, wherever it intersects. That doesn't seem right. Alright, well, close enough. And then we're going to do the same in the stern. Let's see. Just going to do this one. Close enough, I guess. Alright. Finish sketch. Now we're going to create our rails. Excuse me. These will help define the shape of the hull and keep everything in line as we loft it. It'll also give us our correct bow and top profiles. Alright, so we're going to create another sketch. We're just going to go to our top plane, looking from above. Over here in your sketch palette, this may be closed, you might have to open it up. There's 3D sketch. We're going to want to turn that on now. That's the secret sauce. So with that turned on, we can now draw sketches in 3D. So I can go from all different points in this model. It doesn't matter if it's on a plane or what plane it's on. It'll goes between planes. So we're going to use that to create our rails for lofting. So we're going to start here at our bow, very tip of our bow in the side profile. We're going to click that point, go to the top of our first rib and our second rib. And then that's all the points in that plane, so we're going to just stop there. Hit escape. That'll get us out of our spline tool. Come up to our top profile. We're going to turn on our mesh bodies and make sure that our line matches the curvature of the hull, which it does. So that's good. Got almost a perfect match. So from there, we're going to do the next one down. Get our spline point. We're going to come to where that line intersected with the bow. Click there. Go to our first point, next point, and then it'll be the tops of all of these ribs. We're going to just select those points, going down the length of the hull, all the way to the stern, and then finish. So now we have a perfect line defining all of these ribs, and it'll give us a nice, clean, continuous deck profile. I want to make sure it matches the hull. Turn that back on. Click on it to make it blue. Matches our stern profile pretty well. I like it. Alright. That'll work. Turn off our mesh bodies. And then we'll continue to do our rails for the rest of these points. down the length of the hull. And then I'm going to just end it here. I don't like to continue this one into the keel. I've had weird issues with that in the past, so I'll just end it at the very last rib that it comes to. And then I like to create one for the bottom of these ribs. So I'll go to the bottom point. The only reason for this is because of, you know what, I could probably get around this. Hang on. I'm going to open up these sketches and draw a line to the center profile. This will be easier. So if I was to go back, I would, where I put that last blind point to put it on the bottom of the hull, I would draw a line back to center line. That's what I should have done. I'm going to do that on this one as well. This just puts the end of our of every sketch on the center line. Alright. That should work. We got a lot of these projected lines. If you wanted to delete them out to make it cleaner, you can. I usually don't, because it doesn't matter. They're only there for a brief minute, and then I'm beyond needing sketches. I'm going to delete them out just to make this a little more clear, so we can see things better. Give me a second. Alright. So they're all out of here. So at this point, we're ready to loft. So what we're going to start with is the bow. And we're going to go over here to our surface tab. We're going to select loft. And now we're going to select our profiles to loft. We'll start with our first rib profile. And we're going to come over here and select our bow profile. Oops. So since they're touching, Fusion thinks they're all one. So I'm going to deselect the bow profile, hit the plus tab, and that's just telling it the next one I click on is a separate profile. And now we get a body drawn. So what this is doing is drawing a straight line between this profile and that profile, which isn't exactly what we want. We want to follow these rails that give us our curvature to the hull. So I want this loft to be in line with those rails. Come down here to our rails tool, select the pointer, and then we'll select each one of these rails that we created earlier. Once we have all those, we can go ahead and hit OK. It gives us the first part of our bow. And now Fusion will close or make invisible any sketch profile that it uses for the first time. So all the sketches, that first one, all of the rails, it just turn the visibility off on those. So I'm going to go back and turn on our side profile, first rib, and then our rails. So from here, we're going to go to loft again. Go loft from our first rib to our second rib. Going to select our rails again to keep our hull shape continuous. Select our keel to keep that straight. Hit OK. and we're good there. Now to go from this point where we have our upper deck to our lower deck, if I was just to start our loft, select that profile with this profile, I'm going to get this. It's going to go, okay, well, this is taller. I'm just going to bring it down to our lower point here. Don't want that. I want it to be straight. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel. I'm going to come into this rib sketch, edit. Oh, I got to turn it on. Turn that sketch back on. Select, right click, edit sketch. And then at this point, we're just going to draw out a line. Doesn't really matter where it goes. We're going to go to modify and break. With that, it'll create a break in the continuous spline point here at that line. So then we have an upper and lower part of the sketch. Go to our trim tool, delete out that line because we don't need it. Finish sketch. And now when I go to loft again, it now doesn't select that part. So now we go from our lower piece to our next rib profile, and the next, and the next. And we're going to do most of the hull right here. Select all the way back here to the stern. We're going to select our rails, and this keeps all of our lofts. Oh, that's not good. Okay. I know what I did wrong. Those extra lines that I drew, I did not select those. So it has the end of the sketch here. It's not connecting to my rail back here. So I need to go to this profile 3. Oop. What did I just do? Select that, select there, and now it's connected and it's happy. And this is profile 4. Select that, and there we go. So now our rail is touching all of the points. Okay, I think that is good. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And if you turn off our sketches at this point, you can see the hull start to take shape. It's looking pretty good. I'll turn this back on and finish up here in the stern. So what we're going to do, we're going to loft from here to here to here. And for our rails, we're going to have our top, middle. I'm going to try and select that. I think that'll work. No, that's looking weird. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK, just so we can look at this, but it's looking kind of funky. We'll turn off our sketches, and yeah, that's looking kind of weird. I don't know if you can see it. Let me turn on our zebra analysis here. Let's see where we get like a really weird bulge right here, because I tried to match the stern profile. So we're going to go back and do what I was going to do originally and just cut that stern profile out after the fact. So what we're going to do is edit our side profile, delete out this spline. We're going to draw a straight line from the edge of here to the tip of our stern. We're going to finish our sketch, and then this profile here, we're going to edit sketch. We're looking at it from the back. Let's go around to the front. Let's turn off our bodies for a second while we work on this. Delete this previous spline. We're going to intersect this sketch with our new stern profile. Go to intersect. And I'm going to delete this old intersect out of here so I don't get confused. Go back to front. Deleted those projected lines. I'm going to add those back in real quick. Looking at it from the front. I'm going to turn off 3D Sketch for a second because I don't need it. And we'll come down to here. And then we'll just adjust this to meet roughly the correct shape of the stern. Not perfect, but it'll be alright. I think this will work. Alright, we'll finish our sketch. Turn our bodies back on. We're going to loft from here to here. Oh, hang on. Let me start this over. I had one of those spline control points selected when I started the loft, and it was trying to go between that and then our profiles. Alright, let's try that. Select our rails. That's a problem. Okay. So when I deleted that old profile out, I didn't make sure that I intersected our rail. So I have to go back and make sure I do that. So where doing it right the first time really helps. Alright, so we're going to delete this spline. We're going to do an intersect with this rail. I have to make sure we start from that point. Alright, continuing on. Let's do this again. Let's try to get it right this time. Okay, that looks good. Alright, this time it's going to work. We've got that spline point selected again. X that out. Select our profiles. There we go. Our rails. I failed to do it on that one, of course. Alright, go back and do that one again. Third time is the charm. Alright, delete that out. Intersect this profile. Go from here to here to here. Okay. Now it's going to work. Good enough. Alright, turn our bodies back on. Loft. Delete that point. Go from this profile to this profile to that profile. Select our rails. It worked. Alright, there we go. We'll turn our sketches off. You'll see there are different colors here. This is a surface body. So you have an inside and outside. The white is the outside. The yellow is the inside. Depending on how you have your Fusion set up, this might be like a dark gray. But you want to have on the outside this white color. So if you go up here to modify, you'll see a reverse normal tool. We'll click on reverse normal and we'll select the surfaces that have the wrong color. That'll flip them around. Quick, get a drink here. Alright, so this is our hull, at least half of it anyways. From here on out it's pretty easy. So what we want to do is stitch all these together so they're one surface. So to go up here to modify in your surface tab, select stitch, and then just select each one of these individual surfaces and hit OK. Now if you watched up here in our bodies tab, that went from 4 different bodies to 1. So now these are all together. We're going to go over here to create and mirror. Grab our mirror tool, select this now one surface, select our mirror plane to be center line. That's going to mirror it on our center line. And new body is fine. Hit OK. And now we have our hull. Now you can see where offsetting that side profile put me 0.2 inches apart from each other here. Now we'll just have to fill that gap up. But that gives me a nice flat, thick bow. It's not going to break once it's 3D printed. So to do that, we're just going to go to our loft tool again, and we'll just loft one side to the other. And it doesn't matter if it's there are normals or reversed. We'll just go back and change that afterwards. We'll go through and just continue this on. Select here and here. Do the stern. Stern here as well. And then we'll do the decks. Just select all the edges, and it'll do all the work for me. And close up this part here as well. Alright, so now we're just going to go ahead and flip all of these surfaces that are backwards. So go back to your reverse normal tool, select everything that's yellow. Flip this. Oops. There we go. Flip it over. Grab all these ones on the bottom. And hit OK. So now we should have all white surfaces. Meaning that we have the outside facing out. So this is just a series of surfaces here. It's not a solid body yet. So what we're going to do now is create a solid body out of these surfaces by going to Stitch again and just select every single surface. Make sure you get every one. Alright, are all green, we haven't missed anything. We'll hit OK, and watch here when we hit OK. Body 15. This is now a solid body. This is what you would use to create a 3D printable design for RC Warship Combat. But before we finish, gotta remember that we have this cutout for the deck step to complete. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go back to our mesh. We're gonna select create mesh section sketch. Go select this forward body. For the plane, we're going to select our top-down plane, and we're just going to grab this arrow here and move it down until we get into this deck step portion. And that'll give me the line to go off of for doing this next step. We'll turn off our mesh bodies there, turn our sketches back on. We're just going to turn off all the sketches that we no longer need from earlier. So everything but the very last one right here. So now we're going to go back to solid, create sketch, and we're going to come off this the top of the bow. Load for a second. And then we have our line here for where the that deck step happens. So I'm just going to create a line at the back here and just come straight out following that profile. And then basically what I'm going to do is just create a sketch here to cut that. I'm going to create a mirror of this to the other side. Turn on the origin here. Mirror it over on our center line. Finish sketch. Go to extrude. Grab these two sketches. Drag them down. I'm going to click the lower deck and it'll automatically drag that sketch to that deck. Hit OK. And now we have our cutouts, which it looks like aren't exactly perfect going off of the actual model. So I may have messed up a little bit in the past when I designed this. So to fix that, what we're going to do to make this right, we'll go back to editing these sketches. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to project this point right here, where the edge of this deck is. I'm going to project this point. I'm going to draw this this line on that point. That'll make sure that my step happens at the at the intersection of this lower deck and the upper deck. And draw a line straight out. Same the other way. I don't really need to go as far as I did. It's kind of messy, but I'm just basically creating a sketch to cut with. Got that. We'll mirror it over. Select all of our lines that we wish to mirror. Select our center line by turning on the origin. There we go. Finish sketch. Now we'll extrude these again. Drag down a little bit. Grab our bottom deck. Boom. And there you have it. Now if we wanted to create that this part of the deck that comes out and extrudes from that point, we just can grab our extrude, grab that profile, and then just drag it out as far as we need to. Let's see here. Let's see if, honestly, it goes all the way back to the stern here. Do that. I can chamfer these corners to get them pretty close to the model. Need a little half circle cut out there for the for the turrets. But there you go. That is pretty much ready to start cutting up and using for your 3D design. So we went from our mesh game model to 3D print ready solid body model. I gotta cut out the stern. We're not done yet. We could create a sketch on our side profile. We're just gonna turn on our mesh body here real quick, and we'll let me project this point so I know where it's at. Project that point. Now we're just going to kind of follow. Actually, let me switch to a spline. I should also project this point. Bear with me here. Hang on. Looks like my earlier line stayed there. Alright. Project those 2 points. Grab your spline tool. And we're just going to define our stern as best we can here. Going to create a straight line, curves down, and then we're just going to connect those 2 points so we can cut that out now. Finish sketch, turn to the side, extrude. It's already selected that. Just drag it out one direction. Go to our direction, put it as symmetric so it'll extrude the same amount. Now the other side, make sure we cut away everything that's there. Hit OK. Turn off our mesh body, and bada bing, bada boom. There you go. Now your stern profile is correct. And now it's ready. There you have it. Any questions?
Pretty cool, man.
Was that clear? Does it make sense?
Yeah, I'll probably have to watch it again 2 or 3 times to actually have it all sink in. But yeah.
Yeah, a lot of it's just playing around with it, seeing what works. The stern and bow a lot of time will give me trouble. The stern for the most part. So that's why you'll, I don't know what point you joined, but where I had it straight is just the combat, try and get the curvature of the stern correct. If I try and match that that curve there, seems like it messes up the profile every time. So I'll just make it straight and then cut it out afterwards, and it seems to be, I mean, it's not perfect, but for our purposes, it's absolutely fine.
Good enough.
Adding those rails from rib to rib to rib really help maintain the hull shape from one loft to another. Keeps everything concurrent and makes sure your profile is correct too. Because sometimes the loft tool it'll bulge between 2 ribs and you don't know why. Those rails will help keep everything in line. So, well, hopefully this is a helpful tutorial. People will be able to profit off of it. If you were to use like a set of plans, it's a little bit more involved because you gotta put your planes in the correct locations as far as your hull stations are located on your plans. They don't have quite as much creative freedom as you do with a game model, but the process is pretty much the same. You lay out your planes, create your sketches off of your hull profiles, and then there you go. From there on, it's pretty much the same process.
This will be available in June, right?
This model or this boat?
Kidding.
That's up to Will. I don't know exactly what his schedule is going to be for releasing stuff.
That's fine. I'm teasing.
I just completed this last night for him. This will be coming to the website here soon. I should show. I'll quick continue on, but I'm going to show you how to add an armor belt to a hull really easily. This model doesn't get an armor belt, but we're going to add one anyways just to show that process because it's kind of confusing. But I figured out a way that works pretty well, and we'll go ahead and do that now. So what you want to do is create a sketch on your side profile, and if this boat had an armor belt, we want to match the profile of it. So let's say it starts here and runs to here. We're going to draw lines down, and if this was the actual armor belt on the model, let's say that's the actual armor belt on the model, we're going to come back maybe an inch or two, and that's the actual point that we're going to drop down. So this is our actual armor belt on the real ship. This is where we're going to model too. And I'll show you why later. So I'm going to do is delete this actual armor belt. So this is going to be our model belt. We're going to finish our sketch. And what we're going to do is we're going to go to split body, select our body. For splitting tool, we're going to select the sketch. And it's going to cut the body in that profile. So we'll do that. Make sure you have your extend splitting tools selected. Otherwise, it might not cut the entire body. Alright, we'll hit OK. Our body is now split along that line. I'm going to select move. Select that body. It's going to be hard to get the move tool to be perfectly centered or straight up and down, left to right, all that. So just click on it, hit set pivot, and just select, turn your origin on and just select the origin point, and that'll give you a straight up and down selection point to move off of. Come back and hit done. And then we're going to move this out. Let's give it a 1/16. Actually, let's give it a 0.09, about 3/32 armor belt. That looks roughly scaled to something this time period. Hit OK. So now we have our armor belt, but then we've got this weird bulge right here where it ends. It's going to be hard to sheet. It's going to be hard to model correctly when we go to turn this into a warship model. So I want to fare this into the hull so it has a nice gentle progression into the hull. I could do like a fillet, but it's going to be very abrupt and it doesn't work very well, and the computer starts yelling at me if I go too far. I don't really like that. I want to have a longer transition into the hull. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn this sketch back on. I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to drag this line out to where the actual armor belt ends. So roughly about there, roughly about here. I'm going to finish the sketch. I'm going to split the body again. Oops. That's already selected my line. Split the body again at these points. Now we have 2 points here, 2 separate bodies. Let's go back up here. You can see these are now all separate bodies. This back body, I'm just going to go ahead and delete it. And the forward body, delete that as well. In my solid tab, go to loft. Loft this armor body back to the hull. You can see how it goes from armor belt, gentle progression right into the hull. And the curvature really doesn't change too much right in here, so it's not going to like affect the overall shape of the boat or anything like that. So I'll go ahead and do the same thing on the stern. Got a loft from the boat to the armor belt. Get a nice smooth transition, and then we're going to combine this all back together. Oh, it already did, never mind. This is now one solid model, but if you go to the other side, you can see we got an indent where our armor bulge was. So basically, how we get around that is we split our body again, split it on the center line, delete the bad side, and then we'll just create a mirror of the existing hull. And now we have 2 perfectly good armor belt sides. So this boat doesn't get them, but basically that's the process you would follow if it did. And you get a nice smooth transition into the bulge or belt, and you don't have any weird, like if you were to just do like the top and bottom of the belt, you'd have a really hard area to sheet because you're going to have a that hard line at the bottom that drops into the rib, and it just doesn't work very well. And like I said, you can try and fillet it or fillet it, but it's very abrupt, and this is a nice gentle progression. So that's how you do that. Also, I'm going to go back to the original hull. Delete all of this. Alright, I'm going to show you how to check your displacement in Fusion. So what you want to do for that, if you want to check to see, like, say this model's supposed to float at, let me check for Dreadnought, what the actual displacement is in our hobby. Bellerophon. So for weight, standard weight's about 17 pounds. I'm going to create an offset plane from the deck to roughly where I think the water line should be, because I don't exactly know. Let's go like 1.25 inches or so. Let's do that. So we're going to split our body on that plane. I'll give us basically what's going to be underwater. Make that invisible. So this lower section, what we're going to do is go into Modify and get Physical Material. I'll open up our Physical Material tab. Hopefully you can see this. If not, go down to your liquid, and the only thing there is water. Grab that and then place it onto your lower hull section. And we're now telling Fusion that this is water. So then what we want to do is go up here to our document settings. We're going to change our units to feet or foot. Hit OK. And now on body 15, which is our lower section here, that's water, right click and go down to properties. And over here it's going to tell you the mass. 15.82 pounds of mass. So that tells us our displacement here is 15 pounds. Now the actual model is supposed to be around 17, so I might have my water line set a little bit too low. But if you know where your water line is, oftentimes it's going to be, your weight will be almost perfect for what the boat should weigh, displacement wise. So that's how you check that. And you can move that plane up, cut it again, and see what your weights at different, water lines will be. Give you a good idea like how much weight you can put in your model and where you'll be floating at. So that's how you check that. Go back. Anything else I can show you? If you go to
show them can you show us the center of flotation?
center of flotation.
It's the center of gravity of the water section you just did.
Let me go
It's
back.
the same.
Let me go back to that. Center of mass.
Mm-hmm.
That will give you your center of mass. So this will be the point to put all of your weight at, as much as your weight as possible, to get it to turn as effectively as possible.
Right, and it should balance on that, on underneath that.
It should.
On the bench to get your water line level.
Yeah, correct. That's something I don't often look at, but that's a good feature to utilize. Thanks for pointing that out.
Yeah.
Anything else I can show you?
It's more than enough to overwhelm me for now.
A lot of times when I'm done, I'll come in here and I'll go to appearance, and I'll come down here to wood, and I'll apply it to faces. I'll put wood decks on just because it looks nice. Go to paint. I usually do the smooth powder coats. And just, oops, let's do this. Make it look more like a boat. But that doesn't really affect any kind of any modeling aspects or anything. Just kind of makes it look more like what it should when it's all said and done. But yeah, I think if you guys don't have any more questions, I'll draw this to a close here. Thanks for tagging along. As long as it's recorded correctly, I'll have it up on YouTube here within a day or two. And it'll be available for you guys to reference to your heart's content. Alright, I'm gonna sign off here. Thank you for watching, guys. Appreciate your support. Hopefully this is helpful.
Definitely.